Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. We have finally finished our analysis on home field advantage among the Power 5 conferences, and today we have ranked the top 30 teams based on their winning percentage at home these past 5 years against FBS opponents, and we have also ranked the Power 5 conferences based on their winning percentage these past 5 years against FBS opponents collectively as an entire conference. So we have a lot of information to get into, so we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. Since there was so much information, I was not able to put up the team's winning percentage or record up here on the board, so if you want to know those, you can go watch our previous videos or comment below, and I will gladly respond to those. But we'll start up here with the top 10. We got Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and USC starting with the top 5, and many would expect that the top 5 would be the leaders from each Power 5 conference, and that is definitely not the case. Alabama is no surprise, sitting at number 1. They had a 96.7% winning percentage at home these past 5 years against FBS opponents, so they are big time number 1. Clemson number 2, the number 1 in the ACC, followed by Ohio State number 1 in the Big Ten, followed by Wisconsin, which was number 2 in the Big Ten. So you have back-to-back Big Ten schools here at number 3, number 4, and the same for the Pac-12, USC and Stanford, the number 1 team and the number 2 team in the Pac-12. So you don't get the number 1 from the Big 12 until Oklahoma, which is number 7 in these rankings. So that's something to keep your eye on, something to keep in mind, put things a little bit into perspective, is even though Oklahoma was number 1 in their conference, which was technically better than Wisconsin and Stanford, they ranked below them based on total winning percentage. So Oklahoma, the first representative from the Big 12, number 1 in the Big 12, filing in at number 7 here. Florida State, the number 2 team in the ACC, followed by Penn State, and then LSU, who was the number 2 team in the SEC. So you can see a big difference there. And we saw that in our SEC videos, but you can see it now too. Alabama, number 1 in the SEC. The second team in the SEC doesn't even come until number 10 with LSU. The Big Ten leads the way with 3 teams in the top 10 based on their home winning percentage and home record these past 5 years against FBS opponents. You have Ohio State at number 3, Wisconsin at 4, and then Penn State at number 9. Obviously, a very solid top 15 as well. You have another SEC school here with Georgia right behind LSU. It was very close there. And then Miami, Michigan State, Auburn, and Arizona State rounding out the top 15. Obviously, these rankings were very interesting. Of course, there were a couple ties, and I went through and had different tie-breaking methods. That way we didn't have any ties in these rankings. And, of course, I took the liberty of going all the way to the top 30 because there were a couple extra ties in there. I thought we'd do a little extra. So we have the top 30 here instead of the top 25, like I previously said. The SEC leads the way with 8 teams in these top 30. So over half of the SEC made the top 30 in these home field advantage rankings. Very impressive there, and as we can see, they rank number 1 in our conference ranks based on their overall record and overall winning percentage from cumulative of all the teams in there. So SEC, we'll come over here to the conference rankings, coming in at number 1 with a 65.5% winning percentage, followed by the Pac-12, which is less than 1% behind them, 0.9, 0.9% behind the SEC. And if you remember in my Pac-12 video, I said that the Pac-12, when I was doing that study, was by far the most competitive conference out of all the 5. If you go and look at their winning percentages, very, very slim margins from number 1 to number 2 to number 3 all the way down basically until the last team, number 12. The very, very slim margins between all the rankings there, and I said they were the most competitive, and you can see that following in just 1%, less than 1% from the SEC. And in the grand scheme of things, these conferences are all fairly close together. The Big 12 coming in last, but only 9.2% behind the SEC at number 1. So followed by the Big 10 at number 3, and then the ACC at number 4. And I've had a couple comments, and we'll debate this in a later video on which conference going into this season is the best. And if you solely want to base it on home field advantage, it would be the SEC. But I do believe the Big Ten is a very close second. But based on these rankings, it would be the SEC and then the Pac-12. And of course, you can't base it all off of home field advantage. But based on these rankings, that's how it would go. SEC at number 1, and then Pac-12 at number 2. So something that I thought was very interesting here. And like I said, you can go back and watch our previous videos to see the exact record for all these respective conferences. And down here is the biggest difference. And this is basically when they took the home winning percentage and subtracted it from the road winning percentage. And we will not do a conference-by-conference road study there, but we will do, like we did here, a road top 30, and we'll break that down based on conferences as well, so keep your eye out for that. But Penn State had the greatest difference at home. They were 37.1% better at home these past 5 years against FBS opponents. And I can tell you, Penn State ranking number 9 in the home rankings. They only ranked number 44 in the road rankings. So they were 29-7 at home these past 5 years, but went 10-13 on the road these past 5 years, which is only a 43.5% winning percentage. So they are 37.1% better at home than they are on the road. And on the other side, you have Virginia Tech, 15.4% better on the road than they are at home, which is interesting because I've always considered Virginia Tech a very difficult place to play for most of their ACC opponents, but they are actually 15.4% better on the road than they are at home. They rank 42nd in the home rankings with a 14-12 record over these past 5 years, 53.8%. But on the road, they ranked number 10 with an 18-8 record and 69.2% overall winning percentage, which is good for a 15.4% difference. They are 15.4% better on the road than they are at home. So those were the two schools there that had the biggest differences among all the Power 5 conferences. So overall, these rankings were very, very interesting. Like I said, I can't go through and give you all the records and all their winning percentages now, but those, of course, are all in our previous videos. But as I said, Big Ten leads the way with 3 in the top 10, but the SEC leads the total among the top 30 with 8 total, so over half of that conference. This is a very interesting study. Go back and watch our previous videos if you haven't already. You need a lot more in-depth detail, in-depth analysis here among all these top 30 teams here. Obviously, a very, very interesting study. Something to keep our eye on. Like I said, in the future, our next video will be this exact same video, but with road ranks. The top 30 road teams will rank the conferences as well. And of course, you already know which teams has the biggest differences at home and on the road. So thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.